Welcome to the Biz Gone Social podcast. We help entrepreneurs navigate how to get known, get customers, and get the edge over their competition. Here is your host, Lorraine Duncan.
So here we are on the Biz Gone Social podcast, and I am so glad to be here. And my promise to you, as always, is I'm going to give you a little bit of verbal caffeine that's going to energize your business and your social media marketing and help you stay social. Because after all, don't you want to be the business that everyone's talking about? I know I do. And I'm so stoked today to have Doris Gomez with me. Welcome, D.
Hi, Lorraine. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to join you today.
Me too. And I'm like, I want to find out all about your business. So tell me a little bit about your business and what you do.
Yeah, totally. So my business name is Gotcha Covered of Stamford. It is a franchise. So I service the Greenwich, Old Greenwich, Portchester, Stamford, bunch of other little pockets in there. I service them. And what I do is window treatments. So we make your home very beautiful. Well, your windows beautiful, but not just beautiful. We make them energy efficient. We help people with light filtration, which you never realize how much you need until you have a bunch of bare windows in a home. So that's what I do. I consult and help people kind of fit that need, right? Solve that problem or that need.
Right. And I'm sure there's probably plenty of people that do the same thing that you do. But what makes you stand out? What makes you different than the other companies that are out there?
Yeah, me, my bubbly, amazing personality. Honestly, I mean, yes, we all sell similar products, if not the same exact products. We work with, all the big name brands, Hunter Douglas, Alta, Graeber, et cetera, et cetera. So from one vendor to the other, what you're really looking for is that personality. Like, who do you actually want to consult with? It is a long process. It's not something that you sit down with someone for 5 minutes and it's done. You have to really sit and chat and look at samples and colors and, really feel things out. And, you want to do that with somebody that's going to take the time to listen to you, to your concerns, to your needs, and give you real solutions for what you're looking for, not just pushing their agenda, which is what I find a lot of consultants do. So I'm a boutique service that provides consultative approach with a bubbly personality.
Yeah, I love the name of your company, Gotcha Covered. So where did you come up with that?
So I didn't come up with the name. It is a franchise name. But I did love the fact that they chose such a good name. I was like, okay, I can get into bed with a company that can have, a little sass in the name. So yeah, that's I can't take credit for that one. I wish I could.
It's a great name though. So, interesting. I'm going to switch gears here a little bit. So what do you enjoy most about like owning your own business and doing the stuff that you do? What do you enjoy most about it?
Having agency over my life, I think is the biggest piece that I enjoy, right? I can set my schedule. I can dictate my life the way that I want it, versus, having to take that from someone else, right? To fill their need for their business and, their goals. So for my business, I have my goals. I set my tone, I set my rules. And that's really what I've enjoyed the most thus far.
How did you get into this?
Great question. I barely know how I got into this. No, I actually worked in telecom. I worked in Verizon for 12 years. So I did a lot of business for a long time. And, I was kind of in that crazy tech world. And then after COVID and changing policy and all these different things that have been going on, I decided I just didn't want to be a part of that culture any longer. And that came around February. I didn't really have a set plan as to what I was going to do next. So I trialed kind of like looking for new roles that were similar to the role that I was in. And then I realized all of this sounds awful and boring and very the same to what I was doing, right? Like joining cultures that I wasn't going to like. So I started, talking around with people. I ended up getting in touch with, I was approached by an entrepreneurial coach. And then we started discussing some options. And after a few months of discussions and doing research, I set on going franchise and doing it with Gotcha Covered.
That's awesome. I always love the stories of how people, get into what they're doing. It always is exciting to, learn. Sometimes, you may go to school for one thing and you end up doing something totally different. So
absolutely.
It's
never a linear path.
Yeah, it is. And, as you grow as a person, you also, you grow in doing what you want to do and what you're passionate about. And you want to feel like in some way you're making a difference. And, when you go into somebody's home, you are, because you're helping them. I mean, like literally, for instance, I grew up a tomboy. So it's like for years I had nothing on my windows at all because, oh my gosh, that means I have to measure and then it has to match everything else. And this is just not for me whatsoever. So yeah, I totally can use you. Definitely.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of variables to window treatments people don't realize until they decide they're going to do them. So really, I'm an asset for a home buyer because, you want to accelerate the process. You don't want to take 5 months to figure out what window treatments you want in your house. You want a professional to come in and orient you as to what you need. And something I realized recently is how intimate it is, people letting you into their home. It's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful connection. And actually, that's the second thing I'm enjoying the most about this new venture is getting a kind of like a front seat into people's most inner lives, which is their homes.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many businesses now that do come into your home, and it's a big trust factor. It's like, it's a safe, it's like I've had people come into my house and it was really like, sometimes it's hard because I always feel like my house is messy, but I'm sure maybe 100%, like unless you're working like somewhere in Greenwich where they have like cleaning people that do everything for them, yep. It's so much different, and I love that personal interaction. When somebody comes into my home, sits down and talks to me, we have some coffee. It's always about the coffee, by the way. And
always about the caffeine.
And have, a nice conversation and they have a solution, and so like you're providing a solution for them that they don't have the time to do. And some people do. Some people are very creative and they do all their own stuff. I had a friend that was like that she decorated her whole house. She was just impeccable with her taste and everything. But, when you can hire somebody, to me, it's like, oh yeah, just hire that person.
Absolutely. And for us in window treatments, sometimes it's not just that you don't know what you want or a thing. These dealers will not sell to, a regular consumer. And, you go to Home Depot and you have standard size windows only. It's a little harder. You still need to kind of get somebody, which is the beauty, because guess what? There is really no standard window. If you look around at these buildings, the windows vary incredibly. Architects get very creative with their windows.
My windows weren't, by the way, I recently, before I met you, I had recently done one room and none of my windows were standard. None of them. And that was actually a built out room. So that it's a newer room that we expanded on our house. So I totally understand that nobody has standard windows anymore. So one question I have, is like, being a business owner, we always talk about, the glamour of it, it's like, oh, you own your own business. That's so cool, but what would you say is your biggest challenge when it comes to owning your business?
Well, there are several challenges, right? Like just about anything. You know, I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan, and he says, you know, without problems, you're dead, right? So what you want are quality problems. So I'll start by that. Being a business owner is certainly more quality problems. But you know, you're your everything, right? Like at this moment of my business ownership, I'm fairly new in business. So right now I am my everything. I am my accountant. I am my motivator. I am, you know, my salesperson. I am my this, you know, and there's a lot of moving parts. So, you know, that is challenging. And, you know, for me, at least, I'm not somebody that's like 7 a.m. do this, 8 a.m. do that. That's not really my style, more organic. So, you know, that can be a challenge for someone who like that for me, right? I'm like somebody that'll like start one thing and do another, then come back to it and think about it a little and then go write it down, you know, so those have been some of the challenges for me. And as time goes on, I'm sure the groove will get better. And really the goal is just hire people to do everything I don't like to do. And that's the goal.
Absolutely. I did that. I stepped out. I stepped out in my business last year, and I hired somebody at the end of December who started in January, and it's been the best thing I ever did. And so, yes, that's a great goal to have. I'd like to hire so many people that I actually don't have to do anything anymore, but that, you know, that it should, you just have, then you're managing people instead of managing your business. So it's a different problem, you know?
Yeah, it's a different problem. I do love managing people, but yeah, that comes with its own set of challenges for sure.
Absolutely. And you know, believe it or not, and I'll say this to everyone out there that's listening today, you know, if you're in business for yourself, you know when it's time to hire. You'll know that it's more than just a gut feeling. It's like you just can't, number one, keep up. You have the income coming in where you can dispose it in that way. So there's a lot of things that have to play, you know, come into play when you hire someone. I actually went through an agency to hire. So what they did is they did all the screening. And because I've had some very bad luck with hires where I actually hired somebody, I hired a VA once that didn't know how to read. So, which is very sad, but I don't know how they passed everything because, you know, it was a verbal interview. So, and they must have gotten somebody to fill out the application for them. So it was, you know, but then I quickly knew. So I had like 5 failed hires. Finally, I decided it's wasting time and money, and I needed, you know. So what I did is I hired somebody according to my Kolbe A. There's some really great diagnostic tests out there. Kolbe A, the Wealth Dynamics. The Wealth Dynamics test is amazing. Strength Finders is always everybody did that in college. So the bottom line is that, you know, hiring to your weaknesses is always good. My hire. This December, she'll be with me a year. She's the best. I love her to death. And she's, you know, she doesn't live here, but she lives on the East Coast and she lives in Pennsylvania. So it makes it very easy. We're on the same time zone. Nice. So the next thing I want to ask you is that, so what do you do? You know, you're in a whole different field now. Is there anything you do to stay up, you know, to learn more in your industry? Do you do some things like that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely trainings. You know, there's a ton of stuff online and videos and communities that I keep in touch with, like looking at what projects they have going on and et cetera. But, you know, the manufacturers have a great content and they put out a lot of different things to educate us on, you know, new trends, you know, what is the color of the year and all those sorts of things. But that's just like one portion. I think what really for me works is like talking to people, seeing homes, you know, that really is what educates you on like, what are the trends? What do people need? Because, you know, we have these like overall trends, right? And they're usually like for, I don't want to sound whatever, but like, the upper class, really rich, really, like they're setting these trends, but is it functional for most people in their regular lives? No. So, keeping up is really like networking, talking to people, what are you doing with your windows? You might not be using me, but what is it that you are doing, right? Let me see what's happening. I'm always looking at windows, both in businesses and in homes, because we do work with both commercial and residential. So.
Wow. So this is funny. This is an interesting story. I was, when I was in Hawaii, I was staying at the Hyatt Regency. And they had these, they had the balcony door, and usually you just pulled it open and whatever, but everything was done by this button on the wall. Well, It never, either we didn't get it or it never worked right. So sometimes so they had the inner curtain, which was like a sheer, which was weird because usually they have the dark shade that's in the inside and the sheer on the outside. I don't know, maybe that's the way I saw it in other hotels. But then they had the dark curtain on the outside. And every time we opened up the dark curtain, the sheer would close. And every time, and every once in a while, it would work the way it was supposed to work. It was the craziest thing. And I'm like, I will never get one of these for my house. I can actually go to a window and open it up. It just was funny. That's all.
I mean, the motorization is great. And they've really upped the game when it comes to motorization. Especially, I mean, some of these setups that they have in hotels get a bit complicated, and they use fabrics that are really heavy. So I don't know who did what with the motorization there, but for that style, I don't know that I would recommend it too much. However, there are real applications that are very important for motorization. You have your older folks that maybe have arthritis, or windows that are really out of reach. So there are certainly applications where motorization is super important. And I mean, now we have things like, hey, Alexa, put up my shades, you could take it up to that notch. But yeah, it does introduce another element of technology. So it's not for everyone, but for our smart home tech aficionados, I mean, it's certainly another cool factor to add to your home.
It really is. Like I said, I didn't even know that existed until I was staying at that hotel. So it was very interesting. So I have a lot of people that listen to this podcast that, have been in business for a while, or they're starting up their own, or they're just, in the first year or whatever. They have struggles and just a lot of stuff, different things go on in their businesses. What is one piece of advice that you could give to them that will, encourage them along the way?
Yeah, I'll actually say two things. One is definitely have a network of people, which is how we met, Lorraine. And it's really critical. They really keep you focused. They show you what's possible. And give you some really amazing tidbits. So that's one. But two, something like personal is, and I was actually talking to my coach about it yesterday, is like building that burning desire. We think of desire and we just think it just happens. So I'm going to love it and be super passionate, but that's not real. There are going to be a lot of moments and days and things that are not fun and it's not a burning desire to do it, but all the opposite. You want to burn it down. But when you have a clear vision of okay, I want to do this because, I want to retire at 50, or, I want to travel 4 times a year, or, whatever it is, I want to take care of my mom. I want to buy her a house, whatever those motivations are that can pull you right into the direction that you want to go. I mean, that's really what you want to do. You want to really set those burning desires. Why is it that I really want it? Because that's what's going to get you through those hard days, those difficult moments, those moments of anxiety of oh my God, am I going to close some deals? Is this going to work? Is this not? That happens. And we need to have some sort of spiritual practice or personal development practice or something along those lines that will help guide us out of those, lower states of consciousness that we may get into as we go through this journey of business ownership.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are out there that have never experienced the aha moment when it comes to coaching, I highly recommend it. Get yourself a coach. If you feel like you're, not doing well and you're not able to move yourself forward, get a coach. And there's plenty out there, You can definitely get in touch with me if you need to know someone or get introduced to somebody who's really great. There's a lot of great people out there. Absolutely. So anyways, I'm going to end this with, thank you again for literally, being on my podcast. You have an amazing business. It was really just great getting to know you a little bit more through this call. There may be somebody out there that resonate with you and they're like me that still have tons of rooms with no windows covered or whatever. So how would they get in touch with you if they needed to get in touch with you?
Yeah, totally. So you can certainly visit my website, and that is gotchacovered.com/Stanford. And that is GOTCHA covered. And that's one way. You can also give me a ring or shoot me a text at 203-505-2777. And my email is just dgomez@gotchacovered.com. So you can find me there as well. And if you're more of a LinkedIn person, you can go ahead and type in my name and you can find me on there as well. Doris, DAWRIS. If you type that, I will promise you I'll be the only one. So yeah, I really look forward to anybody who needs help. I'd be happy to help. And thank you so much for having me. This has been such a nice experience.
And you're welcome. And until next week, everyone, I will see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Biz Gone Social podcast. Find us on Instagram at Biz Gone Social for extra tips. Check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, stay social.